Good morning, students. Welcome to online platform of Shri Academy. In the previous video, we were discussing the chapter named The Trump of Surgery. So, we will start the remaining part of the chapter. Okay, we will discuss this chapter from the beginning. For those because some of the students have do not watched the previous video, so it will be helpful for them and for for those also who have watched the video. So here I will start from the beginning. I was really worried about Tricky this time. I had pulled up my car when I saw him in the street with his mistress, and I was shocked his appearance. He had become hugely fat, like a bloated sausage, with the leg at each corner. His eyes bloodshot and rheumy, started straight ahead, and his tongue lolled from his jaws. Here in the first paragraph, it is mentioned that the eye. Whom does this eye refer to? I refer to the veterinary doctor. So, I was really worried. So, who was worried? Veterinary doctor was worried about Tricky. Who is Tricky? Tricky is the pet dog of a rich mistress. So, looking at the dog named Tricky, the doctor was really worried. I had pulled up my car when I saw him in the street with his mistress, and I was shocked at his appearance. So, doctor was going somewhere with his car, and when he saw the Tricky on the street, he parked his car and he came to the mistress. He had become hugely fat, like a bloated sausage with leg at each corner. So, as in the previous video, I have told you that sausage means a non-vegetarian food which is cooked into a tube-like structure tied on each end. So the dog was hugely fat. The dog was very fat, and he was looking like a bloated. That means um, full of food or full of fat in him. So the dog looked like sausage with legs at each corner. That means the structure of the pet dog turned into the tube like structure, and that structure had legs at each end. So his now it is description about the dog given over here. His eyes were bloodshot and rheumy, stared straight ahead, and his tongue lolled from his jaw. So when the doctor saw the Tricky, his eyes were bloodshot. That means his eyes were very red, and rheumy means water coming out of nose and eyes. So his eyes and nose were watering. Started straight ahead, and his tongue lolled out of from his jaw. So his tongue was hanging out of his jaw. Mrs. Pumphrey hastened to explain. He was so listless, Mr. Harriet. He seemed to have no energy. I thought he must be suffering from malnutrition. So I have been giving him some little extras between meals to build him up, some malt and cod liver oil, and a bowl of Horlicks at night to make him sleep. Nothing much really. So when the doctor stopped at Mrs. Pumphrey, she explained the doctor that the dog was very listless. That means very tired. He was lacking energy. And Mr. Harriet is the name of the veterinary doctor. So the mistress mentioned that he was very listless. That means he was very unhealthy. He was not feeling well. So and the dog was seemed that he has no energy. So the mistress thought that he is suffering from malnutrition. So she started giving him extras in between the meals. And what was the extras she used to give the dog? It was malt, cod liver oil, and a bowl of Horlicks. Malt is the energy giving food, mainly used in energy giving drinks like Horlicks, One Beta, Complan, the main ingredient of these energy drinks is malt. So she used to give malt and cod liver oil. What is cod liver oil? Cod liver oil is oil extracted from the liver of a fish named cod. So, and a bowl of Horlicks in the night to make him sleep. And she offered a bowl of Horlicks to the dog in the night so that the dog have a good sleep. And she, at last she said nothing much really. So after giving so much of food, she said that she do not give anything much to the dog. And did you cut down on the sweet things as I told you? And then the doctor asked to the mistress that, have you cut down the sweet things that doctor asked her to do? So, oh, I did for a bit, but it seemed to be so weak I had to relent. So then the lady said to the doctor that yes, for a short period of time she cut it down, but after that she felt that dog is but after a time she felt that dog is very means dog is not having energy and he is feeling very uh, dull. So she again started to give the sweet things. He does love cream cakes and chocolates, so I can't bear to refuse him. Then the mistress said to the doctor that the dog loved cream cakes and chocolates very much, so she could not refuse him to give the chocolate cakes and the cream cakes and the chocolates. I looked down again at the little dog. That was the trouble. Tricky's only fault was greed. So after listening all these things, doctor looked down to the little dog, and he was very much troubled, and he knew that the only fault of Tricky was that he was greedy. He had never been known to refuse food, and Tricky do not know to refuse the food. He was so greedy that anytime he was offered food, he used to eat the food and digest the food. He would tackle a meal at any hour of the day or night. So here it is mentioned that Tricky can eat food in any time of the day or night. And I wondered about all the things Mrs. Pumphrey hadn't mentioned. So doctor was thinking that there are many other things that Mrs. Pumphrey must be giving to the dog, but she is not telling those things to the doctor. Are you giving him plenty of exercise? So after that, doctor asked the mistress that whether you are giving the plenty of exercise to the dog or not. Well, he has his little walks with me, as you can see. So the lady answered to the doctor that yes, you can see that he is having walks with me, but Hawking the gardener has been down with Lamgo, so there has been no ring throwing lately. So the lady mentioned that his gardener named Honkin is having some lumbago problem. That means that he is having lower back pain. So he is not playing with the dog the game of the ring. So throwing ring was dog is not having this exercise of throwing ring. I tried to sound severe. Now I really means this. If you don't cut his food right down and give him more exercise, he is going to be really ill. You must harden your heart and keep him on a very strict diet. After listening all these things, doctor tried to sound very hard to the lady, and he said that if you do not cut down his food and you do not give him proper exercise, he'll be ill, really very ill, and you will have to harden your heart and keep him on strict diet. That means doctor is asking the lady to keep the dog Tricky on a strict diet. Mr. Pumphrey wrung his hands. Oh, I will, Mr. Harriot. I am sure you are right, but it is so difficult, so very difficult. She set off head down along the road as if determined to put the new regime into the practice immediately. And then when the doctor said these things to the lady moved her hand in a particular style and said that yes, I will do the things you are telling me, Mr. Harriet, and she put her head down and moved away from there. I watched their progress with growing concern. Tricky was trotting along in his little tweed coats. He had a whole wardrobe of these coats for the cold weather and a raincoat for the wet days, and he struggled on dropping in his harness. I thought it wouldn't be long before I heard from Mrs. Pomfrey. So here it is written that speaker is saying that he stayed there, he remained there, and he watched the progress. That means he watched the mistress and the dog moving out of there, and he saw that the Tricky was having very much trouble in walking. He was walking with very difficulty, and then at that point of time, doctor uh, doctor thought that within some days he will have a call from Mrs. Pomfrey, and she will tell him that the dog is really very ill. The expected call come within a few days. Mrs. Pomfrey was distraught. Tricky would eat nothing, refuse even his favorite dishes, and besides he had bouts of vomiting. He spends all his time lying on a rug panting, didn't want to go for walk, didn't want to do anything. So as the doctor was expecting that he will have a call from Mrs. Pomfrey, so within a few days he had a call from Pomfrey, and she was very much distraught. That means she was very much disturbed, she was very much worried about the she told the doctor that Tricky is not eating anything, he is even refusing his favorite food, and besides he had bouts of vomiting. That means within a short period of time he is having a number of vomits. So he bouts of vomits he was having, he was vomiting, and he spent all his time lying on rug panting means having difficulty in breathing. So he was the dog was lying on the rug, and he was panting, didn't want to go for, and the dog did not wanted to go for walk, he did not wanted to do anything. That means he was very much ill, he was not feeling good, so he did not wanted to do anything. I had made my plans in advance. The only way to get Tricky out of house for a period, I suggested that he will be hospitalized for about a fortnight to be kept under observation. What do you mean by fortnight? Fortnight means 15 days. So here doctor said that he was having means he already had a plan that he will take the only way to get Tricky fit is that he will have to taken out of his house, and so he suggested the lady that Tricky will have to be hospitalized for 15 days and will be kept under the observation of doctors. That means doctors will take care of Tricky. The poor lady almost swooned. She was sure he would pine and die if he did not see her every day. Swoon means almost fainted, and pine, that means he will miss him very much. So the poor lady, when he heard that he will have the dog will have to be kept in observation for 15 days, she almost fainted, and she was very much disturbed, and she knew that if the dog will not see her almost every day, then he will die. That means this line shows the affection between the dog and the lady. But I took a firm line. Tricky was very ill, and this was the only way to save him. But the doctor decided that he will take Tricky to the hospital, because that is the only option through which he can help Tricky in achieving good health. In fact, I thought it best to take him without delay, and the doctor thought that without making any delay, he should take the dog away. And followed by Mrs. Pumphrey's wailings, I marched out to the car carrying the little dog wrapped in the blanket. And Mrs. Pumphrey was not willing to send the dog, but yet he was very ill, so she had to send him with the doctor. So Miss doctor, the veterinary doctor, took the dog in his arms. He was wrapped in the blanket, and he took him to the car. The entire staff were roused, and maids rushed in and out, bringing his day bed, night bed, favorite cushions, toys, rubber rings, breakfast balls, lunch balls, supper bowl. Really, realizing that my car would never hold all the stuff, I started to drive away. As I moved off, Mrs. Pumphrey was a despairing cry threw an armful of the little coats through the window. I looked in the mirror before I turned the corner of the drive. Everybody was in tears. So when the doctor took the Tricky to the car, all the staff started running here and there, and they started collecting the belongings of the dog. They collected his day bed, his night bed, his favorite cushions, his toys, his rubber rings, his breakfast bowl, lunch bowl, supper bowl. They collected all those things, and doctor realized that these all things are very much means spacious, and he do not have that much space in his car, so that he can keep all those stuff in his car and take with the Tricky. So he started driving, and when he started driving, Mrs. Pumphrey cried, and she cried loud, and she threw armful of little coats through the window of the car. And doctor started the car and moved on. And while moving with the car, he looked in the mirror, and he saw that everybody was in tears. That means everybody loved the dog Tricky very much, and they were very much unhappy. They were crying because Tricky was ill, and he was taken away by the doctor to the hospital. Okay, dear students, today I will conclude the video here only, and in the next video we will discuss the remaining part of the chapter. Thank you, and anyone have any doubt in any portion of the story can ask me.